This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, Shini.
Hi, Yuvi. Hi.
Um, we'll wait for Ranjit to join. By the
Yeah,
time
yeah.
he joins, did you get chance to practice the lab which I've shared yesterday?
I will do this week, Yuvi. Like, I couldn't find time. Yeah, maybe this
Oh,
weekend I will do it. Yeah,
okay, fine. We can try it. And I
yeah,
partially wrote the code just for your reference. You can use it as a hint, and you can use write your code
y-
also. Okay.
yeah,
So, so what I did is I had a integer data type mark, and using the scanner, I'm getting the number, and that mark I have it with me. Once I have the number, if it is greater than 90, I would say you are in grade A. And if it is between 80 and 90, that is greater than or equal to 80 and less than 90 means obviously it is 89, right? So this was my yesterday's requirement, like 80 to 89. So I will say you are in grade B. Similar thing for your 70s also, between 70 and 80 you can say you are in grade C. So likewise, you can add this else if, and finally, what you can do is if any of this condition is not satisfied, then you can say like you are in grade E. So this is the code I was expecting. You can also try once you find time. I hope I have explained the concept clearly. Using the if and else if, you can write this code. This was your yesterday's lab exercise. Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
So I think Ranjit also joined. Today we are going to continue with RA concept. Then we will be continuing on the loops. So once you are comfortable with these conditional statements and the loops, you can very well do most of the program, I would say, because almost all the programs are based upon like simple breakdowns of the big logics only. So if you are comfortable with the data types, if you are comfortable with the operators and your conditional statements, along with that, if you are comfortable with the looping concept, then most of the challenging task you can very well do. On top of it, we'll be covering the hoops concept also. But whatever hoops concept you are doing, if you are comfortable on the fundamentals, what are the topics we have covered so far and the methods also, you can easily understand the existing code. If you are landing into any new project which is already developed, you can easily crack this code. So this is what we are going to continue today. So let's just a recap about yesterday's one. Like we were seeing about the single dimensional array yesterday. So arrays are nothing but if I want to store multiple items of similar data type. Say for example, I have a mark of only one student, means I can define like this: int mark equal to 85. It will work very fine. But in the case of more than one student in a class, I have 50 students, I want to store the mark of all the 50 students. I'm taking only one subject here. Let's say max mark I want to store, means what I can do is int mark. So if I give a square bracket, means it is an array. So it's an integer array. So it is saying that, so new int of 50. So how many students mark we can store? We can store 50 students mark in this array. So this is one of the way to store the data. Marks of 0. So I told yesterday, array the index, though I specify like 50, it is not like 1, 2, 3, it won't go like that. It will start from 0 and ends with like n minus 1. If my total array size is 50, means the index range will be 0 to 49. So likewise, I can add the number and I can print and see that number also. Whatever the data I have saved, it will represent it. For example, I missed to add any one number, but still I can see some number. What it is? It is a default value of an integer data type. For every data type, there are some default values. So if I define a integer array and if I don't add any data to the array, the default value what it will take is 0. So when I try to print the 49 here, it is showing 0 at the bottom because the array size is 50. So the index range will be 0 to 49, but I have specified only 2 students mark. I yet to assign the marks for the remaining 48 students, but it will be initialized, right? At the time of initialization, it will assign some default value that is called 0. So with this, I have stopped yesterday. Today we will be continuing on the multi-dimensional, that is let's do two-dimensional, then I will tell about the multi-dimensional array also. So we were talking about one subject mark, that is max was the subject we have taken for example. So it was very straightforward to store the mark of a single subject, like using the syntax which I've shared. For example, if I have to store the mark of two subjects, like max and science mark, I want to save it, or if I want to store it, means the best way to use it, you can go for a two-dimensional array like I am showing in the screen. If you look at my screen, this is my single dimensional array. This is my single dimensional array. My index positions will be like, it is a 4. The size of the array is 4. So it will be like 0, 1, 2, and 3. As I told you, the index position will start from 0. So in the 0th index position, the mark 80 will be saved. And in the first position, 90 will be saved. In the second, 85. And in the third index, I'm talking about the index position. I'm not talking about the array size here. The index place is like 3 here. So in third place, the 70 will be stored. So as I told you, if I want to store two marks, one is max subject and another is my science subject, means this is the way I can go with this. Something like this. It's a two-dimensional, right? So it's like your graph only. This will be marked as 0 and this will be marked as 0. So I told, right, that the index position 0, 1, 2, and 3. This is how my index position will be. Just take the single dimensional array. Single dimensional array, what I told. This will be my 0, this will be my 1, this will be my 2, and this is my 3. Similarly here, this row I am meant to save my max mark. So the index position is 0, 1, 2, and 3. And this vertical one will also have some index like 0, 1, 2, 3. So far I'm taking only 2 as an example, only 2 subjects. If more than that, if you want, like you can have that index position 2, 3, 4, whatever, like based upon the number of subjects we can keep. Let's come to the example of two dimension, that is two subject marks I'm saving. So how it will be saved, this 0 and 0. So this box will have a index as 0 comma 0. So I'm talking about the index position only. I will explain from the code also. This is the actual value I'm storing. This is the mark, the max mark. But the index position, if I want to print the max mark of student 1, how I can call? In the previous example I told, right? The mark of 0, the mark of 1 with the square bracket I've specified. Something like this I've specified and I was able to do it right in my print statement. Something like in the print statement I said like max, and I had a square bracket. Inside that I put 0, then I put like a close square bracket. If I do like this, where it will refer? It will refer to this particular point. So 80 will be printed. If I say instead of this 0, if I say 1 here, what it will do? It will print the 90 mark. So this is the way I was printing. I was storing, and also I was printing using the index positions like this. In the case of two dimensional, how can I do is I can do exactly same like this, but only one small modification here is, if I have something called max, the same thing, I'm using the same array, for example the same array name. So max, if I want to save a data or if I want to read the data, I should use the index position like this. I told 0 comma 0, right? So I cannot give 0 comma 0. Instead of that I can say 0 comma 0, so equal to 80. So if I do like this, what it will do? It will go and look for the 0 comma 0 place. So 0 comma 0 place is nothing but this is the place where you have your 0 comma 0. So here it will save
Yeah.
80.
Hi, Yubi. We are not able to
Mhm.
see anything on the screen.
Ranjit, is it for you also?
Yes, I'm able to see.
Yeah, because I logged in two devices to sort out this problem. In my other device I can see Srini.
Okay, okay.
My
Let
screen
me
is
try to
visible.
rejoin. Yeah, thank you.
I'll wait for you to come back. Ranjit, by the time you join, the recordings are available. Please go through the recording. If you find any difficulty in understanding the concepts, do let me know. Only yesterday class was there, right? So Monday we don't. So
Yeah,
you
sure.
just check it and out. You can connect with me. Shini, is my screen visible?
Yeah, yeah. I can see now. Yeah.
Okay, good. So let me continue. So if I say like this, the mark 80 will be saved here. If I want to save some data here, then obviously what I have to do? Marks of 0, and here instead of 0, I have to place 1 because the index position is 0 comma 1. And this is 0 comma 2. How I got 0 comma 2? This one and this one, I told, right, the index place together created me the index places 0 comma 2. It is something like 0th row with second column. It's like this is your row, right? This is your row and this is your column. So what it says, 0th row and second column, and this one is nothing but 0th row and third column. So the index position will be 0 comma 3. So if I want to store a data, if I want to retrieve the data, what I have to do? I have to specify the index positions carefully, and I can set whatever data I want. Same thing if I want to store the data for science subject, then what I'll be doing is I'll be doing something called marks of. So here my index place is 1 comma 0. So I'll be
Um,
having something called.
UV, have a question here. So, in case of multi-dimensional or no, double-dimensional array, how the data will
Mhm.
be stored in memory? I mean, it is one place or it's a two places where data will be stored because it's a two-dimensional array.
One place only. See, this is the place my data will be stored. It's all memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the box just for me to connect with the system. I'll be using the zeros and ones for my understanding. But for the program, it's all memory. It will have a memory
Okay.
address. So what memory it will go, that and all we may not be knowing, but we used to call with some programmatic way to the index position, zero position, first position. So this is how it will be stored.
Okay, just an indexing the but the
Yes.
reference will be same, right? I mean, if we one only, right? Okay.
Yes. See, for a machine, it's all memory address.
Okay.
So it will have a predefined memory address. When I say that array, when I define the array itself, if I say like 100, my my array size is 50. If I say what it will do, it will create one array that is from memory it will occupy. Whether I'm going to use it or not, that memory it will already, it will say that it's like booking something. You are booking like 3 rooms or 4 rooms. You plan to travel to Bangalore and you feel that I need 4 rooms. And you are booking that 4 rooms. Means what they will do? They will book that 4 rooms for you. It's up to you whether you're going and taking all 4 rooms or you're not at all going. It's different. But when you do it, that array declaration itself, that memory will be reserved for you. Later on, what you will do is you will add some values. Say like room one, you and your friends will be there. Room two, you your relatives will be there. So that you will decide later. But the memory will be allocated, and you will access it whenever you are in need.
Sure.
Okay.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
And next thing is I will show that this is the theoretical example. Now we will see it with the programmatic way also, how we can store the data in two-dimensional array in a program, and multi-dimensional arrays also we will use it. Okay, so let me share my editor. So yesterday I was telling about single dimensional array representation and how you can store the data, how you can retrieve the data and all I was telling, right? Today we are going to discuss about the multi-dimensional. Similarly like that only, whatever I told, right? So here also I'm going to use two things, that is two-dimensional array. And one more thing I want to tell. So this is the one of the way I was telling you, right? I was specifying one integer array and assigned a value like this. You can club these three lines together, and this is this or that. This way also you can use an array declaration and initialization. And you have one more way. In a single line, you can assign a value like this. This I will comment this for now. Just an alternative way, any of these two you can prefer. Int marks, and I'm going to specify something. I'm not specifying the array size here. I'm going to open one curly braces. Inside that, I'm going to say that 60 comma 70 comma 80 comma 90, and I'm closing it. So if I specify like this, okay, so here I'm not specifying the size of the array directly. I have specified the values. So what it will do is it will fix the size of the array as 4 because I have added only 4 value, right? So what it will do, it will fix the value as 4 and the 4 values will be assigned. So here what I did, I upfront told that I'm going to use 50 array, but here I'm saying that only 4. So I'm not specifying, but still program will understand that it is an integer array of size 4. And if I want to access exactly same like this, like you can call with the index position. If I give index of 0, 1, 2 and 3, it will work because I have 4 elements, right? So till the index 3 it will work. If I give something beyond that like 6 or 7 or something, I will get an error. like yesterday also I ran a program and showed you, right? Like index out of bound index error you will get, because I have an array size of 4. So obviously with index 3 only I can do, but it say like array index is out of bound. I'm trying to access a index of 7. That is, if it is 8 only I can access the 7, but here I don't have that much of data, so obviously it will throw me an error. So this one we have to be careful. Usually this data, that is inserting a data to an array or retrieving the data from the array, we won't do like this as I showed, right? What we will do is we will use a loops, especially for loops we will use. And when we run the for loop, the main condition what we will use is we'll check for the size of the array. To retrieve the data, we will first check the size of the array. Based upon the size only, we will run it. In your real-time program, that is how you run it. But this is the very first time we are doing, right? So I'm taking step by step. Once we complete the for loop, we will run a demo with the for loop, like how you can insert the data and retrieve the data using the for loop also we will see. Okay, so this is the two-dimensional array. If in case if I want to store the marks of 6 subjects or 5 subjects, so we have to go for the multi-dimensional array. And I would say that in my personal experience, we hardly use multi-dimensional array because it is more complexing. So most of the developer won't prefer for the multi-dimensional array. We have something called collections. We'll be covering in the one of the sessions. There is a concept called collections. So there are some simple and easy ways available, which is alternative for this. Instead of going for this complex, if you just think about it now itself, I was telling the index question of 0, 1, 1, 0. So in the two-dimensional array, how we will be doing? I told you, right? Int class marks. So something like this I was telling, and using two square brackets, I'm going to say that new int, and I'm going to specify the numbers here. That is how I used to do the two-dimensional, right? In the case of multi-dimensional array, that is 3 rows and 4 columns. If I want to do means I will be preferring like this: 3 rows and 4 columns. To think about that, how my indexing would be. Okay, it will be, this is for the two-dimensional array. I'm saying that 3 rows and 4 columns. This is fine. Like I can do 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, something like that. Exactly the example which I shown, right? You can use it and you can add your number there. So like class marks 0, 0. This is how we specify, right? So capital M. And I'm specifying something like 85 here. This is somewhat acceptable. But you think about the multi-dimensional array, if you go for the multi-dimensional array, it will be challenging, and maintenance wise you feel lot of challenges, like how many indexes are there and how to insert it, how to retrieve it. So we won't usually prefer the multi-dimensional array. And one important thing here is, it is not like upfront I have to tell my array size. I already shown here, right? Even without specifying the array size, I can create one array. Say for example, I want to create one array without specifying the actual size, means that also I can do. So I'm creating an array, integer array, and I'm going to specify only the rows. I'm not going to specify the column. So I'm just giving one empty square bracket. This is also acceptable. So what it will do is, on the fly, whenever I add the data, that time it will fix exactly like here. On the fly I was adding some data, right? So similarly here also, without specifying the size of an array, you can go like this also. This syntax will also work. Okay, for the multi-dimensional, for the two-dimensional array I took an example. Multi-dimensional array means obviously it will go more than 2, right? So 3 would be coming here, one more square bracket will be coming here. So it is like 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. So something like that it will go. Programmatic wise, To an extent you can add, but most of the developer won't feel because of the challenges in understanding and maintaining the indexes. The better alternative to store the marks of different students is you can go for collections. In collection there are different options are available, so that we can use it to sort out the challenges here. So we will be discussing, we have the concept similar like array, there are some concept in collections also, that we will use it to simplify your work. So that's what I told in the beginning. There are different ways to do your task. If you know the all the available techniques in Java, you can pick and choose based upon your need. So to save your time, to get a easy code, so there are different options available. So this is one among them. Multi-dimensional array prefer from the development world. So this is what we call it as array. Any doubt in array so far?
Do we have linked list also in Java?
Sorry.
Do we have linked list also in Java?
Yes, yes, we do have list. That is the collections I was telling, right? In
Okay.
collections, I will be covering the list concept, array list, and linked list. Both the concepts. See, it's a data structure concept. How you will use a data structure in Java, I'll be covering.
Okay. Another question
Okay,
is
complete.
here you have mentioned we can give a blank this one right size,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think this is the
Yes.
best way because if we define the size, suppose we have defined the size of 4 and we have just assigned the value of 2, so other two will be dead. I mean, a space will be created, but we are not using it. So I think that is the best way, right? I mean, as per my experience, so to keep this blank.
You're right. There I can see two pros and cons. Memory wise, whatever you're saying is fine. Like if I upfront to know that I'm going to use only my students count is 30 means I can go with that. If I don't know, I don't have a clarity on my things like how many data I'm going to add, then you can go for the the option which I gave, right? Even without specifying the size. But the challenge here is you don't have control of your array. If anybody want anything later, they can add then and there, and there is a challenge you will face it in the real time. So most of the time we won't prefer with this option, because it's not like only you are the one who is going to develop, right? Your teammate is also going to develop. You may consider that I'm going to add only 5 data or 6 data, and by keeping that you have added. But later on, if your friend add any infinite loop, there are some chances, right? There is a concept called infinite loop, and if by mistakenly if they didn't add the loop properly and they are trying to add the data into the array means, it will create the server crash also. It will you utilize the entire memory. Okay, so pros also there, cons also there if you're going with this option.
So you mean to say cons will be a memory leak, right? If they were infinite loop.
Yes, yes, both pros also memory, right? So in the pros what you are telling, what I want, that only I'm going to use it. So that is your
Okay.
advantage you are saying. The advantage itself may become a disadvantage if we don't code properly. Because I told, right, we are going to insert the data and retrieve the data using the loops concept only. So if you don't handle your loop properly, then you may end up in infinite loop.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Next is loops concept. So it one of the important topic in the programming world. It is not only for Java. If you take any programs, loop plays a vital role because it will reduce our work as much as possible. So if handle it properly, it will support us. If you handle it in a wrong way, it will go in a server crash also, especially for the performance engineer. Most of the time we observe that the performance engineer gave recommendations related to the loops only. The way we handle loops only, it led to some problem performance issue. So finally they told us, don't go for this loop, this you have to arrest the loop like this, and you have to handle the conditions of loop like this. That was the recommendation we get it from the performance engineer. So let's see what are the different types of loop available. Before that, let me tell what is loop. So it is something like, if you want to repeat some set of instruction, we know Java program means it's a instructions only, it's an execution of some statements. If I want to repeat the same set of statements for multiple times, I don't need to repeat that code again and again. I can put those set of execution, that commands, into a loop, and I can set how many times I want to execute that loop, how many times I want to repeat the executions. If I do like this, then it will save my work, and it will save my the number of lines, and I will get a clarity also how I am running my code. Okay, so it is used to repeat some set of instructions again and again. That is the definition of a loop. So there are different loops available. uh, I'm going to discuss about three loops now. There is one more concept available called for each, that I will cover after when I cover the streams concept. I'll be covering the Java 8 features and all. In that time, I will cover the for each, because it will be easy if I cover some of the oops concept before explaining the for each. So for now, we are going to see like loops means, I told that repeat something. What is repeat something? Say, for example, I'm recently consulting with a doctor, and doctor told me that you have to walk for 1 kilometer per day. It's a very simple task, but just for an example I'm taking, 1 kilometer per day. And my parents are saying that no, you should not go too far, you have to walk around the house only. So what I did is, daily I used to take like 100 meter. If I do one round, it takes like 100 meters. So what I did is, daily I used to take 10 rounds, so I can cover 1 kilometer. So I'm satisfying my doctor, and I'm satisfying my parents also. So here
Oh, your voice is not audible. See, can you hear UV?
No, no, Ranjit. Yeah, I think she'll
yes, yes, I
come.
can hear.
Yeah, yeah, okay, you're back.
uh, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible now.
Yeah, thank you. So there are different ways I can repeat the task. One is, I can go with the numbers of rounds. That is 10 times I want to tell, like I'm doing means it is numbers, some numbers I'm taking. Or what I can do is, I can see that number of steps in my watch, like the kilometers, everything nowadays it's counted, right? So I can take some rounds until I meet the 1 kilometer. That actual expectation is 1 kilometer. So I will see my watch, my smartwatch, smart band, and I will see that I will cover my 1 kilometer. That is the other way of doing the steps. So I'm repeating the walking. That is the actual steps I'm doing. What I'm doing, I'm repeating something called walking. But the walking, two things I'm doing. One is, either I can go with the number of rounds, or I can go with the kilometer. So both the things are taken into account. Similarly, in the loops, based upon my need, I can either go for a for loop, or I can go for a while loop, or I can go for a do while loop. Okay. So I'm going to repeat something, but how I'm going to repeat, based upon that, I can choose my loops. So these are the different loops concept available. So I have a very simple example, that is, I'm going to write one program here. So this is something called, I'm printing star here. So this is my task, simple task I'm doing. I'm executing the program. Once I execute the program, you can see in my screen at the bottom, star is printed. You can see this is one time executed. For example, I got an instruction that I want to print the stars for 100 times. It is not one star, I want 100 stars in my console. Means what usually we will do, we will be copy and paste this output statement for 100 times, and we will execute, and we will see the output in the screen. This is one of the way, but this is not the recommended way. So if I'm planning to repeat the same set of things for multiple times, I can go for the loops concept. So instead of writing something like this, I'm going for a for loop here. The for loop syntax would be like this. Let me write a program, then I will explain you the syntax. I am initializing an integer, something called counter. So I'm saying that my count will start from anything I can give. Okay, counter equal to 1. So it's 1. Either you can define your count outside, or what you can do, you can define inside. I will show all the ways. My counting will start from 1. I told, right, I'm going to walk around my home for 10 times. So first when I start, it say like you are in round 1, round 2. So that way my counter will start from 1. And how many times I'm going to print the star, I told, right, 100 stars I want to print. So I'm going to check one condition here. My count will go till what? Till 100. And so that's why I gave less than or equal to 100. If I give less than 100, my loop will go for only 99 times. If I say less than or equal to only, it will go for 100 times. Then I'm going to increment my counter. So increment my counter means, as I told, first I'm taking a round again, like I'm walking around my home. First round completed. Then when I take the next step, what I will say, I'm in round 2. So I'm increasing the rounds, 1 2 3. I'm increasing. Like similarly, I am going to increase the rounds count here. You can take counter or rounds, whichever we feel comfortable we can do. So here I'm going to increase only 1 at a time. So I'm going to plus 1. So I'm using the plus plus operator, the increment operator we are using. Then inside the for loop, I'm opening that for loop. Okay, this is the opening and ending of the for loop. This is the scope of the for loop. We always say scope. Scope means what are the things it comes under the for loop. So when I run this loop for 100 times, what are the activities I'm going to do, that we call it a scope of the loop. So inside the curly braces, whatever I give, that will be executed for 100 times. So let me reiterate again. I'm going to start my counting from 1 and going to end the counting at 100. And every one, whenever I complete my counting, I'm going to print star in my screen. So now I'm executing this code. Once I execute, you can see, can you see? The star is printed 100 times. In my bottom of the screen, you can see 100 times it's printed. Here, I didn't copy and paste this output statement for 100 times. Only with one for loop, I'm able to do it. So now let's discuss about the syntax for loop. So for loop means the keyword, everything. So I told, right, these are the Java reserved words, are the keywords. So that the color coding itself will tell that these are the words have some meaning in Java. So if I want to use a for loop, I have to use a syntax called for, and I have to open the bracket. Inside that, the very first thing what I have to use is something called initialization. Okay, I have to initialize some counting. It can be a counter, it can be a timer, whatever we call. So some initialization I have to do. Then I have to define the condition. What is this condition is going to tell? It is going to tell how many times this for loop is supposed to run. At what condition it should come out of the for loop. So here what has happened is, first time it is initializing, right? And initializing, and I'm entering into the for loop. I'm printing the star here. Okay. Once I print the star, what it will do? It will increase the counting. So previously it was 1. So counter plus plus means the counter will become 2. So incrementing the value by 1. The plus plus is nothing but incrementing the value by 1. So now my counter is 2. So here it will check whether this counter is less than 100. Obviously, right? Because my counter, the value of counter is just 2. The variable value is just 2. So 2 is less than 100. So it will say, okay, you are less than 100. So you are going into the loop now. So every time it will check the counter, then only it will allow the execution of this print statement. So at the 100, so 100 times it ran, then what happened is at 100 place, the counter is incremented. Now my value is 101. So 100 times completed means at that 100th time, my counter will be at the value of 101. So it will come and check the condition here. Is 101 less than or equal to 100? No. It is going to return me a false. If it is a false, it won't go into the for loop scope. It will come out of it. What it will say is my execution completed. That's it. It will come out of the method itself. This is the actual mechanism behind the for loop. First you have to initialize, then you have to set the condition like how many times the loop has to execute, and you have to give some increment or decrement. So increment, either a increment or a decrement. So depend upon the condition. It is not like always I'll be doing counter plus plus. If somebody say that print it in the reverse order, then I'll be decrementing it also. So anything it can be. It can be counter plus plus or counter minus minus. Based upon my need, I can either go for an increment or decrement. So between every statements, I'll be having one semicolon. You can see semicolon, right? Between this condition, increment, and everything, I'll be having one semicolon. Then inside the curly braces, whatever I give, it will be counted. Like what are the executions I've given. This is the syntax for your for loop. So my for loop is done. I'm initializing something, I'm printing, I'm checking a condition, and I'm incrementing. When this increment, can you look at this? This is the post increment I have given. If you look at my code, this is the post increment. So obviously post increment means what? It will complete the task, then only it will increment the counter. So when I enter for the very first time, that time itself the counter won't increment. So first it will say the counter would be 1, it will check the condition, it will print the star, finally it will increment my counter variable, because this is the post increment operator we are using. So once it is incremented, once it is become the second round, it will check. One initialization means only one it will happen. Like it's not like every time it will go and initialize the variable. Only when you enter the for loop for the very first time, the initialization will happen. In the next time, when you are repeating the loop, these two conditions only will occur: incrementing and condition checking, incrementing and condition checking. Once I meet the threshold, it will come out of the loop. So this is the mechanism behind the for loop. Any doubt in this?
Yeah, no doubts.
Okay, good. So I have told this is a for loop, right? There is a case like I don't want to go with this. I want to do the same thing. I told, right? I want to walk for 1 kilometer. So instead of going for 10 rounds and numbers, like my same example, what I've taken, counter would be 1, round would be 1. So my real-time examples, what you can do, you can initialize something called int round, and round equal to 1, and round less than 10, round plus plus. I can do it like you are in first round, you are in second round. I will execute my code, whatever the code I have told, right? Instead of this, the practical example I have told, that I'm going to tell you now. Int round. So I'm saying a round equal to 1, and round less than or equal to 10, and round plus plus. So I'm going to print something like this: you are in a round number. So some number I'm printing. So Whenever I complete, whenever I walk, it will say that you are in round 1, you are in round 2, you are in round 3. Simple example, whatever I explain in real time examples, right? The same thing I'm going to execute in the code also. End of the program. I'm executing it. Okay. So what is doing is it will start from round 1. Once I complete, it's saying like you are in round 1, round 2, round 3. So once I complete 10 rounds, it came out of the loop. It say like end of the program. This is what is your for loop. But if I want to go with the kilometer, that is, not going to consider the rounds. I'm going to do something like once I reach 1 kilometer, I will stop there itself. I'm not going to continue it. So what I can do here is I can go for a while loop concept. So what while loop will do is, you don't need to exactly follow the structure, but what are all the three condition I specify here is initialization, condition, increment or decrement. We are going to use it, but in a different way. The syntax for while loop will be, you will use a keyword as while, and I'm going to print something like 1, 2, 3, 4. So from 1 to 5, I want to print some number on in my screen. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to initialize outside. Instead of initializing in the for loop itself, I'm initializing a variable outside, something called int I equal to 1. And here I'll be inside the while loop. I'm going to check some condition only. If my I is less than or equal to 5, I'm going to,
You in
yes,
case of for loop, so if we go for pre-increment, so it will print from 2, right? I mean, you are in round number 2,
yes,
3, 4, 5, 6, right?
yes.
It won't. So it will print till what this one? I mean, till 10 or till 11.
No, no, my condition is same, right? Wait, I'll run that code
Hello.
also. Am I audible, Ranjit?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Yeah. See, my condition will fail. In your case, you are telling that pre-increment I'm doing, right? I'm running this code. Okay. So let me
E-
run this quickly. It will print 1, 2, 3 and other things, because my condition check, it will look for 10 only. It won't go for 11 because I'm stopping here itself. Less than or equal to 10. My loop won't go beyond 10.
but plus means pre-increment, right? If suppose we have taken the 1, it will first increment by 1, right? But that is 2.
Yes.
Then it will print the value. But why it is printing 1
Yes.
here first?
Here my execution is just a print statement. Okay. I am not doing any business logic here. If I do any business logic here, then it will take it into consideration.
Okay. Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, thank you.
So coming back to this while loop, int I equal to 1 while, so the condition I'm checking inside this. So in while loop only the condition will be checked, and I'll be printing something here. Okay. So that increment or decrement I'll be doing in the body of the while loop itself. I'm not doing outside, that is in like in for loop. here you are doing that increment or decrement, right? But here you are doing in the body of the while loop. That is a different. But exactly here also you are doing initialization. You are also checking the condition, at which condition I have to break the loop, and how can I proceed with the loop. So everything I'm doing, but the syntax is different. So now let's run this code. If you see here, I got like it is printing from 1 2 3 4 5. So it is working as it is. The only difference is here I'm going with some numbers. Here I can define, just for our understanding, I put 5. Usually it will check some condition also. If the if you meet some specific kilometer, if I count is 10,000 in my smart band, so some numbers it will check. Numbers in the sense some condition it will check. It is not to be like the exactly some numbers, the number of rounds or number of loops here. It can be any condition. It can be like if it is like 5 even numbers. For example, if I want to print till 10, what are the even numbers between the 10? If you want to print means, what I will do, I will be checking some conditions also. So the like that also you can do. It is not like like always you have to go with the number of loops. It is some conditions. It can be 5 times, it can be 10 times, it can be 100 times, but unless my condition is met, it won't stop the execution, it will run. So here only we have to be careful. I was telling about the infinite loop, right? I can run also, but you can try by yourself in your system. So if I don't specify this, if I don't specify the increment operation here, what will happen is my I would be 1 always. So the while loop, what it will do, it will check that I is less than 5, it will come into this loop, it will print 1. Then again, it will be like continuous process. The loop won't end because I gave a condition that if I meet 5, then only the loop should break. But here it won't break at all, it will continue forever. So this is called infinite loop. Usually when you are going with a loop concept, you should be very careful on the condition at what the loop should break. If you don't specify the condition properly, if something, you might be thinking something and like you assume that the loop will execute for only 5 times or 6 times and it will break, but the condition which you specify within this bracket is not meeting means it won't stop the loop execution, it will continue forever. So that is the main thing we have to look into when you're doing the while loop. And one more thing is there something called do while loop. The do while loop is nothing but when you want to do something for at least once. So here what has happened is, if I specify my I equal to 6, okay, I'm trying to execute the program. I'll change this statement to this one. If you look at this, it is not printing anything at all. It is directly coming and printing end of the program because my condition is 6, I equal to 6. So I'm looking for I less than or equal to 5, either 5 or anything less than 5 only it will accept. So in that case it won't even enter into the while loop. My condition it's failed, so in the very first stage itself it will break and it will come to the end of the program. But there are some cases we feel that at least once we have to enter, like your trials, okay. So they are giving that only one chance to enter this particular website. Once you enter, you have to register. So next time onwards you have to log in as a registered user only. If that is the condition means, only once you are letting in the user. So whether the registration is done or not, very first time you are letting the user in. So in that cases you can go for the do while loop. So without checking any condition, you are going to execute some set of operations. In the second time onwards you will check whether it is registered or not. So in that cases you can go for the do while. Okay, the syntax for do while is exactly same, but one small change compared to while and do while. In do while, I'll be repeating this task. Okay, so I will have this something called int I equal to 5. So 1 I'll take int I equal to 1, and finally I will check the condition. After my first execution, here only I'm going to check my condition. I less than or equal to 5. Okay, so now I'm executing. If you look at this, this is exactly like my previous program. So I will run it and I will execute with this example also. I equal to 6 also, let's see. But here what is happening, let's see. First time, the output wise I didn't see any difference between my while loop output and do while loop output. For example, I'm changing this value as 6. Okay, so I'm starting my I with a value of 6 and I'm executing it. If you look at this, it has printed 6. Execution done. Then only it is checking whether the I is less than 5. Then it found that it is not less than 5. So from next time onwards, it is not letting the loop to continue. So this is the difference between while and do while. This questions you can expect in your interview. What is the difference between while and do while? In while, it will first check the condition. If condition satisfied, it will continue with the execution. In do while, for the very first iteration, so the loops, whatever we call, right, this the technical term is iteration. So it won't continue with the iteration in the case of while loop, but in the do while, it will let you to run first iteration alone, irrespective whether the condition is satisfied or not. It will run it. Finally, it will check the condition. If it doesn't satisfy, then it won't go for the second iteration. That is a difference. But any of the first iteration, it will go. So whenever, as I told, right, whenever you get a requirement like this, like very first time you allow the person. If the person is not doing what is expected, from next time onwards, don't allow the person. That is the same thing we do here also in the do while. Okay. So with this, the do while and for loop concepts are over. And in for loop itself, we have a concept called nested loop. Okay, so this is at the high level we have seen what are the different loops, but real time we will be using, especially on the interviews, we'll be using something called um, nested loops. What is nested loop? So I was telling about this printing the stars, right? So you are printing the star for 5 times, 10 times. So these things I was telling you. If in case you have something like this, count equal to 1, count equal to 100, and something like this. Let me reduce this to 5. Okay, I don't want 100 here. Let me run this loop for 5 times. So I'm going to run this, and I got output like this. Okay, so now I want to print like 5 times the star is printed. Let me remove this print a new line, so that I get all the stars in a single row itself. So in a single row, I got this 5 stars. If I want to print 5 stars 5 times, okay, I have to go for the nested loop. Nested loop is nothing but a loop inside the another loop. It can be a for loop inside a while loop. It can be a while loop inside a for loop, or a for loop inside a for loop. Any combination you can do. For today's discussion, I'm going to use a for loop inside a for loop because I want to print the stars, 5 stars 5 times. So now I'm going to introduce one more thing called j equal to 1. Usually if you go with this uh, nested loops, you can see it online also, they will use something called I only, int I equal to 1, I less than 5, I plus plus. And for the inner loop they will use something called int j equal to 1, j less than or equal to 5, and j plus plus. So now I'm going to print it, a loop inside. So this is outer loop, this is inner loop, and I have a star here. And if I want to break it, so slash n. This is the escape. Slash n is nothing but I'm instructing to go to a new line. So let me run this code. Okay, let me remove this and run it. So slash n means I'm telling that you have to break the line, like you have to go to the next line. Now you see I'm repeating the task. Printing star is a repeated task, but how to print it? In the horizontal, I want to repeat for 5 times. In the vertical, I have to repeat for 5 times. So for the horizontal, I'm giving the outer for loop 5 times I'm running, and for the vertical, I'm giving the inner for loop and it is running for 5 times. So the one important thing here is, first my int will be, that is my I value, the outer loop counter will be 1, and once it is 1 it will enter here 5 times, it will complete this, that inner for loop complete, then only it will increment and the I count will become 2 and it will go for the second set of thing. Okay, so every time when I equal to 1, this j would be 1. So j1, j2, j3, j4, j5, 5 times it will complete. Then I will become 2. It will enter into the inner loop. J will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will print all the stars. Then new line. New line means it will go to the next line. Then I will be 3 and j will be from 1 to 5. It will print for j equal to 1. This will be printed. J equal to 2. This will be printed. J equal to 3. J equal to 4. J equal to 5. So likewise for every j, new star will be printed. Then for new line it will go to the next line. This is how I get a pattern like this. Okay, so in your interview they will give some patterns printing. For patterns printing you can go for the this one, what it is, nested for loops. If in case they are going the same pattern, they will tweak you, they will tell you that print something called 1 2 3 4 5 5 times. In that case is very simple thing, you don't need to tweak much. You would have seen, you can even in your online, some of the pattern printing you can take when if you are really interested. So it is printing me 1 2 3 4 5 like this. So this is one of the pattern it is printing. I want to print it in a triangle way. I want to print in a triangle way, something like this. Okay, let me take one triangle. Something like this. 1 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 5. So some patterns you can see it in online, something like this. If you want to print means same thing, the nested for loop. So what it is doing, first my loop is running for only once. Second, my inner loop, I'm talking about the inner loop only. Okay, for every row it is the inner loop. First time the loop is running only once, second time the loop is running 2 times, third time loop is running for 3 times, then 4 times, then 5 times. How can I recreate this? Is very simple. Instead of checking a condition here I'm checking the condition as 5, right? So as I'm specifying 5 times the loop is running, but here my requirement is 1 time, 2 time, 3 times. So what I can do is, anyhow first time the I would be 1, the second time the I would be 2, the third time the I would be 3, the outer loop counter would be 1 2 and 3, right? I can reuse the outer loop to get the pattern like this. So what I can do is, instead of the constant value 5, I can say I year. Okay, so if I say I year, what will happen is it will run for the value of I. So you can see I have reached the pattern. First time the I would be 1 and it will enter into the for loop, and the value of I is 1. So the inner loop will execute for only once. Then the I would be incremented. My I would be 2. When it is 2, the inner loop will execute for 2 times. That's why it is printing 2 numbers. So and again you can see how it is printing 1, 2 and 3. Here you can see I'm printing the value of I itself. I removed the star. So I'm printing the value of I itself. So likewise, based upon the number of incremented I will print the patterns like this. Okay, so these questions you can expect in the interview. If I want to break something, okay, tomorrow I will continue. Time is 10. Okay, tomorrow I will continue with the loop concept itself. There are some additional things we have to cover, so that we can continue in tomorrow's session. Okay, so any doubt so far?
No, UV. Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, you know,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
joining. We'll connect tomorrow.